Good to go? Okay. Good evening. Our Board of Supervisors Workshop meeting for Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. And start off with announcements. We have Scott Steelson is filming, and let's move to open forum. So there isn't too many items on this agenda, but I'll start over here. Questions, comments? I was just saying, we don't have it on the agenda for the workshop.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't done the workshop in a while, so other things, it's on the list. All right. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Nobody on Zoom.
Nobody joined us, okay. All right, so we start off, any questions, comments from the audience? We're good to go? All right, good. Welcome, thank you for joining tonight. The business, let's review the draft agenda for the August 9th regular meeting. And
I'll answer any questions the board has specifically.
yes. So, on item 3, on the, we're advertising to, on the ordinance change. So do we have any updates on that? Any comments from planning or?
It went back to planning last month, correct? Yep. And staff has attended, and only Jen Lake was not there, correct?
Correct.
And we reviewed comments back from the planning commission, reformatted it, gave them back to them. I think generally the planning commission was happy with the changes the staff had made to take into consideration the prior.
That's correct.
Okay. So once it went past there, once it's advertised, then that document would become public, and we would put it onto the website for review and comment. And obviously the board will get a copy of that.
Yeah.
And we can review it. Any questions you have, reach out to Jen, Mike, that area.
Okay, so there's an expectation that we can have these completed before the end of the year.
That's correct.
Right. Go to the items. So, we have a few variance requests. Zoning hearing application, special exemption. The Calvary Chapel. Overall, there's a lot of agenda for the next meeting. Has anyone had an opportunity to look at that? Any questions or comments?
Well, the draft agenda has not.
That hasn't been published yet.
It's still a work in progress, so.
Yeah.
That should be published either next Monday or 5 days.
So for the benefit of the audience, we have 9 items on the agenda. And 2/3 of them understand consent agenda and such department reports.
John, you will notice we did add a new department report.
Okay.
Number 1 will be under F1. We added the Board of Supervisors report, and it gives board members who are representatives of the various committees, Church County Association of Township Officials, Tax Collection Committee, Western COG, PACOG, to give their report on items of interest that orders from those meetings. That way it kind of allows the board members to know when they should be giving us those updates. That's the
Yeah, so right now, looks like I got 3 out of 4.
Do
even the tax collection committee, I think both of us got that one, right?
Right.
Yeah. But we didn't attend any meetings, so there's really nothing to give on that one.
Again, but this, in the prior past, it was hard to know where the board members wish to kind of
Yeah.
give that information, whether it's new business, old business, so it just made sense to,
Yeah, it's good that we have done that, because I did have on a list of things to give an update tonight on that. I mean, I could tell you just briefly, just the County Association of Township Officials did have a spring conference, was delayed by 1 month, so the turnout wasn't as good as it's been in prior years. There's a few bills that are in Harrisburg that Chester County Association of Township Officials have endorsed. One of them has to do with the tax that is collected from people working in Philadelphia, that some of that money would be coming back to the townships. So it's been going back and forth for years, I understand. Just like the bill comes up about law enforcement paying for the state police, but it never gets out of our committee. So I can provide the meeting minutes from the last executive board and highlight any of the things that might be impacts of the township.
and John, if you want to provide that to the administrative staff, we can actually insert that
Yeah.
as an attachment for the board's benefit.
Okay.
It might make it easier for whoever's going to do the reports to see it in the agenda package.
Yeah. The Western Chester County Council of Government, we spent a good deal of time talking about the garbage collection, and the topic was called Trash Talk, so kind of appropriate. It serves, for, recently there's been a lot of complaints about the region. Apparently, for instance, my disciples, I think they missed three weeks in a row, and I understand I'm actually the lucky one. Some of the reasons that they were saying that in the past, the men would stay out there on the road until everything was collected, everything was done. Now, when they hit 8 hours, they're told to come back in, even if the job isn't done. So I think in the past they were being paid the extra hour or whatever it took. Now they're not being paid, so that's one of the reasons that they just turn around, go home, go back to the office. So that's not what we want to hear. But we had a conversation with the Chester County Commissioners, and they're pretty much on the top of what's going on in Western Chester County, so they're getting some updates from the COG. The Pennsylvania Association of Council of Government, it's been reorganized, so I'm really happy about that, because the last couple of years it seemed to be dwindling off. We lost about 10% of the COGs in the membership, and now there will be administrative staff. They apply for a grant which would provide the money needed to do the administration. Because in the past, the supervisors who were on the executive board were doing a lot of administrative work. And one problem we had, the president passed away last year unexpectedly, so that caused us to do the reorg. All right. And what does the PA COG do? It provides some leadership for the COGs throughout Pennsylvania. You're looking at least 100 in the state. 80 of them belong to this group. And what is helpful, it provides the assistance for regional issues where you don't get that assistance from PSATs. PSATs is focused more on the local government issues. So there's always been that gap, and that's where BA COG is filled in. Most of the meetings have been in State College. There's a greater participation in Center, Pennsylvania, and especially in the western part of the state. In fact, I've been about the only person representing Chester County for the last couple of years. And we do pay a membership, but the membership is paid through the Western Chester County COG. So I think you'll see some more activity going on, reports from those two organizations in 2024. All right, some other things. I had some discussions with Representative Dan Williams in the past. He's indicated he would like to meet with the board at any time that we'd like. we do anticipate him coming to the veteran ceremony in November. So we'll have a chance to see him then. But all we have to do is reach out to his chief of staff. He can set up a meeting, come to one of our workshop meetings, and we can establish the relationship that we used to have with, I think minutes ago. Yeah, no, maybe a few months. All right, and another thing is, we did vote again on the park property, so there's 3 acres there. And this is a question that I've been hearing is, what's next? So I don't think we have an answer tonight for that, but that would be another item that we have to determine what happens to that property. Because I think some of the residents right now have been taking care of that property, they're mowing it, and we have to make a decision on that. So, and the last thing that I have to update would be on the Veterans Ceremony, November 5th at Tell High, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There will be a meeting on Monday at Tell High. We'll be putting together a list of veterans that we're honoring. This year, the focus would be on the World War II vets. We did a focus about 2 years ago on World War I vets, so it just seemed appropriate that we reach out to some of the remaining World War II veterans. I think in Tell High they have less than a dozen at this point. So if there's anyone out there that we'd like to honor, he or she may not be alive, but at least if you want to have that person recognized in November, and that's the whole purpose of it. And as you see, when you go out into the lobby, the list of veterans from Huntingburg Township, the list is growing tremendously. If you know of someone whose name isn't on there, reach out to us and we'd be glad to add their name. All branches of the military, including Red Cross, are considered to be eligible to be displayed on that board. And since we've done that, Huntingburg Borough has partnered with us, and they're looking to do the same thing, display a list in their borough hall. Because right now they just have a list of World War II veterans. That's where we originally got the idea. When I was over there at borough meeting, I said, how come we don't have something like this in the township? And a few years ago, after one veteran ceremony, I was the last person to leave the meeting and closed up, and then there was a dog standing out in the middle of the street. He was looking one way, looking the other way, and I think somebody just dumped him on the street. So I took him around a few places. So about 9 years later, he's still with us, but he's in the hospital. He's in the emergency. He's 14 years old. I think this might be his time. So unfortunately, I call that out is that some people seem to take Huntingburg or some of the areas out here as a convenient place, to drop off pets rather than bring them to a shelter. And a poor critter like that couldn't last the night out here. So, all right, let me open it up for open discussion. So, turn to this side of the room. Do anyone anything you'd like to discuss? Anything you anticipate for the next meeting? It's your opportunities.
Not this time.
All right, thank you. On this side of the room, do we have any questions? Please name and street.
Yeah, Valerie Schultz, 165 Caitlin Court.
Thank you.
A couple of different questions. I thought at the last supervisors meeting, the issue came up of the funding for the skate park. And there was going to be a discussion of whether or not that was actually coming out of the land preservation funds. The other issue was the comprehensive development plan. I thought there was supposed to be discussion of how that was going to be pulled together, whether there's going to be a task force formed. There's a number of other items that just keep getting pushed to the side. Natural lands and trust, what are we doing with that? Are they going to actually come out and look at the D.R. Horton property? Are we going to have another wetlands assessment? What's going on with that? And then also, when is the public going to get a chance to view the saldo amendment? Yeah.
Well, with the salvo amendments, it will be posted right now. Next Wednesday, we'll vote to advertise it, and it'll be posted on the website for residents to view and to make comments. If there's a need for discussion, I encourage it. We can use that in our next workshop meeting.
It'll be posted that day of the meeting?
First we have to advertise.
It'll be advertised, and then during that advertisement period, it will be made available at the township building. We'll get it on the website for inspection.
So it would be nice if we had more than just a few hours for the public to look at it.
Would that be included on the Facebook page for the announcements? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll make it announcement. It'll be available several weeks before.
All right. Wetlands assessment. Right now, I think we're waiting for an update from D.R. Horton. I think there's still several outstanding things. We haven't been in conversation with the natural lands in several months. As far as the wetlands assessment is concerned, I would like to speak to that at the next workshop meeting, a summary of what's entailed with that wetlands assessment. And I could reach out to representatives from some of these groups to help. One thing that is available to the public, if you go to the EPA website, they have a thing called the Watershed Academy, which you have about 15 modules. And if you go through that, it's rather thorough. This test studies at the end of each module. And if you complete that, then you have like a certification for a wetland specialist. It's not that it's going to something you add on your resume or something, but it gives you some indication that you have some understanding of the overall process. So I'm going through that right now, and I would encourage people who are interested in participating in an environmental advisory committee that would be something you want to look into. I just had another resident approach me asking about an EAC, and they said that the residents are looking to put together an EAC at this point. We keep getting updates from the Northern Chester County EAC, and there's about 20 municipalities participating in that, and they're saying, come on board, we'd like to work with you. So, let me see, what else did I cover? There's a couple of
Comprehensive development plan?
I'm sorry?
Comprehensive development?
Yes, that's good, okay. So what we did in the past, we would advertise and get volunteers to come in. The last time we did it, I tried to encourage more residents to participate rather than getting the supervisors, so that it was more input from the residents, but unfortunately we weren't getting too many responses. We did get a few people that participated, because it's quite a commitment. I think you're talking about anywhere from at least 6 months commitment to go through that process. And subsequent to that, we'd also need to look at a task force to update the land preservation plan document as well. That will be needed in light of a lot of the developments that are coming up now.
And John, can you speak to the comprehensive development plan and what the value of this is? Because, you know, it was referred to in the special exception criteria. And then when we talked about what the special exception criteria mentioned as far as high-density housing in the township, the zoning board didn't see that as a contradiction. So, you know, are we actually going to take these documents seriously, and is it really of value to spend residents' time and township time if these documents are going to be ignored?
Well, overall, they should be. It's a guiding document for the township. It's pretty much conveying to the residents what the township will be doing for the next 10 to 20 years, and it's supposed to be a commitment from the board. The one thing I would like to see, now that the technology has advanced tremendously, we have a static list. It gets published in 1 year, but a year later, you don't know if anything has been started. All we have is a timetable saying, should be started immediately, nice to have type of things like that. If there's work that's been done on a particular issue in that comp plan, it should show some indication that it's been 30% completed, 50% completed. You have no way of knowing that when you go to the paper document or even to the website. So that would be something that would be helpful. Also to take a look at some of the comp plans of what the other municipalities are doing and what they're doing very well. We can always learn from them. And that's one of the things that you get out of the COG meetings, because everybody there is always comparing notes. What did you do on such and such in your comp plan?
Go back to this side. Gary McHugh on South Valley Road.
Go ahead, Gary.
I'm confused. What's the comp development plan? Is that something different than the comprehensive plan?
I thought I heard the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
You say comprehensive development plan.
Okay, the word
You say
development.
comprehensive development plan, and I want to know what the difference is.
Okay,
Or maybe there isn't a difference. Maybe it's the same thing.
That's what I was referring to.
it's the comprehensive. Okay.
So you're talking about when it comes up, we talked about this a couple weeks or a couple months ago,
Yeah.
that it's coming up in 26, I guess. Is that when it's due, the 10 years is up? Is that what you're talking about? You're talking
Yes, we
about
are, Gary.
comp plan?
We are talking about that, Gary. That's correct. And I also talked about it last year, and I didn't get any response. So we do need to move on that.
But it's a 10-year plan. So when you get close to that 10 years, back up a year, year and a half, is when you would start the work.
Which is what I called out for, and it hasn't been started.
You must have missed that meeting.
Yes, you did. You did miss that meeting, Gary, because if you go to YouTube, you will hear me say that clearly.
Wait, I'm confused. So when is the next, is 2026? So that means we would start working on it in mid-2024, right?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but when I did speak to it, I did take a look at the date. It's 10 years out, and I said we need to add that to our list of things to do, because we do have a list that we started at the beginning of the year, Gary, and that is what we work with our township manager. It's part of his manager report that we go through the items. Okay.
That was brought up a couple of months ago, but nothing ever happened with it, never got put on the agenda.
Well, it may not be timely yet. Am I missing something here?
Well,
I mean, I understand that we can talk about it, but if this is something that's, you get the residents together and the board, you get this group of people together to work on this, right? I wasn't around last time this happened, so that's why I don't know.
My question was,
Okay.
is it two separate things? I now understand that what Val brought up and what you were commenting on is the comp plan.
The comp plan for the township,
Yeah,
yes.
So sometime next year, we ought to move forward.
So we need to do
And it would be great if public would get involved, because the last time, I think Melissa and I were the only ones that went to every meeting. And the only people that came from the public were somebody that wanted something with their property to develop.
Yeah.
So it would be great if the community would come, because that's the folks that should have a say.
And I did attend some meetings, but I was not a member of that task force, but I did speak to several
So
people.
it was a joint task force. It was township and borough.
That's correct.
And I assume that that's how you want to continue the next time also.
Yeah, but I needed to speak to Bill Ford right now, since he's president of the council, and if they want to join us again, I think they would be amenable to that.
Well, it's a good thing to get started sometime next year.
Yes.
So you said that's due in the 2025 or 2026?
26 is when it should be adopted. But then, but there's like a 6-month period to when it's finished to when it ends up getting adopted. Because it has to go to both municipalities and their meetings don't align.
Yeah.
So it's once the work's all done, it's about 6 months until it's actually adopted.
And then go ahead.
Is that, for getting the public involved, is that something that would be only open to residents of the township or borough, or maybe Chester County area close by to be involved, or is that like a closed?
Well, ideally, I would expect residents, but, I mean, if you have an area of expertise that you would want to share with, for the plan, I think it would be welcome.
Okay. I didn't know if we would be, if
And we did work
outsiders
with,
are invited or not, that's all.
and source of information would be our website. Once we get that started and timeline in place of when to apply and what meetings, when the meetings would occur.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you answer the question about the state park funding?
No, I didn't address that. Do we have any update on skateboard park?
You have to review that first, have your comments and the answers.
Well, I don't have time to read through all this. Would you just give it a brief snapshot of what's there?
Absolutely.
And one other comment, Gary, as far as the comp plan, the last time we did it, I sat down with the borough and they were glad that, they wanted to work with us because up to that point, there was no indication that they would be working with us. We went a separate way 10 years earlier, and I think it was very beneficial to have the borough working with us.
It's actually adopted in July 2015.
Thank you.
All right, so the Land Preservation Fund transfers. March 11, 2020, Huntingburg Township Supervisors adopt Resolution 9-2020. Upon signing the resolution, they acknowledge the terms and conditions of the grant. The DCNR document signed by the chairperson, includes John McHugh that year. April 12, 2020, Township Manager Steve Landis notifies the DCNR Bureau of Recreation and Conservation that the Huntingburg Township Board of Supervisors approved as part of the 2020 budget a $400,000 transfer from Land Preservation Fund to the Recreation Fund to ensure a 50% match of the Pennsylvania DCNR grant awarded for James A. Memorial Park Phase 1 development. May 13, 2020, Huntingburg Township Supervisors Travis Casey and John McHugh signed Huntingburg Township Land Preservation Account check number 10,335 in the amount of $400,000 paid for the order of the Huntingburg Township Recreation Funds. The memo line notes PA DCNR grants 50% match. February 10th, 2021, Huntingburg Township Supervisors Travis Stacy and Tracy Olson signed Huntingburg Township Land Preservation Account check 10,349 in the amount of $400,000. Paid to the order of the Huntingburg Township Rec Funds. The memo line notes it's a transfer for the matching grant here. Here on the screen is the budget for 2020 showing an interfund transfer that was made. That budget was approved by the Huntingburg Township Board of Supervisors. There's the check request there, signed off by Steve Landis. Here's the report to DCNR acknowledging the transfer of the funds from land preservation. Here's the resolution signed by the chairperson. Here's the signed check from 2020 for the $400,000. Here is 2021's budget showing a $400,000 authorized transfer by a past budget approved by the Board of Supervisors. There's the fund transfer request. And there's an email this from Steve Landis, the former manager, asking for the fund transfer. And there's the signature for the check in 2021. And seeing up on the screen is the 2022 budget that did in fact have a $400,000 transfer, which was approved by the board in 2021 after speaking with land preservation and speaking with all of the board supervisors. Last year, they agreed that that transfer should not happen, so the $400,000 transfer set for 2022 was not made. It was in the 2023 budget that we are currently in. The board did not authorize a $400,000 transfer, so hopefully to answer the question, the board had approved $800,000 worth of transfers. It was approved in budgets in 2020 and 2021, and the checks showed that the previous board had signed those checks.
That's confusing. So they signed the check, but then they said that it wasn't authorized.
I didn't hear that whatsoever.
That's what you just said, right?
I said in 2022, for last year's budget, there was another transfer that, after I spoke with the board, they did not agree to. So 2020, there was a $400,000 transfer. 2021, there was a $400,000 transfer. In 2022, there was another $400,000 transfer that I had concerns with, and I spoke with the board, and that 2022 transfer did not go through.
So I don't know if land preservation is aware of that all of those transfers actually happened, were in place.
It's before my tenure, so I can't attest to the new ones.
I've gone to those meetings, and everyone's confused about this. I don't think anyone knows that this money actually got taken out of their account.
Well, the first payment was addressed in land preservation, so I had that conversation with land preservation. So we were kind of reluctant, but we said if it was needed. The second payment, that's where I had confusion over that we were still talking about one payment, only one $400,000 payment. Then when it came to a third year saying that we were going to transfer another 400, that's when I went back to land preservation and I said that the only conversation is what I had, and that was for one payment, one transfer, and that's what was agreed to. So we suspended those transfers, at least the last transfer was suspended. It was like, that's not going over into that account. On paper, it was showing that there was going to be a transfer, but on the account, that did not happen.
So none of the money has been spent to date from those $800,000 that's been transferred over.
Not that I'm aware of, that the money has been spent, hasn't been touched.
There is a fund balance over $1.2 million in the recreation fund.
Where it was supposed to be at this point 800, and I don't know when that last one went through.
The last one did not. We've had families come in from excavates. We've transferred $60,000 in from the general fund for maintenance this year, and that fund is being invested in Pliget, so it's not interest.
Yeah. That's something we didn't even invest the money, because initially a long time ago, we said we never had enough money on hand to invest, but in reality, we could have been utilizing that because of the short-term, investments could have been done on a monthly basis.
I think it needs to be made clear to the residents that their land preservation money is going towards Parks and Rec. I mean, that's not what our understanding was when people voted for that.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
What was the initial DCNR grant amount?
It is a reimbursable $225,000.
And that's what the township was going to match, the 225.
The initial $400,000 transfer was a guarantee. The township had to show funds to even get approved for the grant.
Okay.
And there was a proposal at one point to say, to offset we're putting 0.5 or half of 1% towards land preservation. The number of applications for easements have been slowing down considerably. We did a projection how much money we need, so we could do it at 0.25. So when we increased the property tax for the fire and EMS. We're going to do a revenue neutral approach. When the property tax increased, to reduce the dedicated income tax to offset that increase in the property tax. That didn't happen, so there was going to be some tax relief for the residents. Didn't happen. Any further questions on it? And the initial request, the referendum that we had was in 2005. But if you read the referendum, it is somewhat wide open, and it did refer to open space. So at the time we adopted it, we were looking at farmland preservation only. And then the state legislature turned around 2-3 years later and said, open space can include parks. So we never adopted that officially. We could do it, but we never officially did it, because the money was appropriated or voted by the residents for farmland preservation. That's what the people were expecting. This was a big pushback then. Development was coming through, if you remember, before 2008. There was a lot of concern about development pushing out to this area, and then fortunately, well, not fortunately, when the economy collapsed, we had a break where a lot of those developments were put on hold, and now we're seeing a lot of those developments finally coming through again. And during that period of time, we changed our approach. The residential development was to be concentrated in the south east corner, which we have today, which was initially put together as a traditional development neighborhood approach, where you would have the opportunity to walk to a store, things like that. It was a great concept, but then it just didn't take off. And then the Rockland Station overlay district was just abandoned at that point. That was part of the 2015 comp plan. Okay, that question got everybody quiet. Anything else at this point? No? All right. You want this back or?
No, it's back. Okay.
Yeah, the questions are, do you want to cover before we end this night's meeting? Okay. There's a fall conference for Caleb. That will be in October. All right, I guess that should do it for tonight. And that was one, so I guess we'll call for adjournment. Have a motion? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you everyone for joining tonight.
You should do it on that.